Woohoo! And we're live once again on another Tuesday. Although today it's kind of doing a little bit of back to the future because we are actually previously recording this so that Jane didn't have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I do this for my down under friends because I'm kind and I want them to sleep, but I still want them on my show. So this is how we get the best of both worlds. So before we get stuck in, so I'm just going to go ahead and get my banner on so people know that this live was previously recorded. So Jane Jackson is coming in all the way today from Australia. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. Navigating career crossroads, how publishing my book transformed my coaching business. So Jane, before we get stuck in chatting, can you, just in case there's somebody who doesn't know you, LinkedIn, top voice and everything, can you tell people who you are and what you do? And then we'll get stuck in.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you so much, Gillian. Good morning. It's very early in Australia. And I'm so happy to be here with you. And thank you so much for inviting me to come on. I love talking about careers, and I'm very happy to talk about my book as well. So for those who don't know me, I'm a career management coach, and I specialize in career transition coaching. So basically, I help professionals, usually senior to middle management to senior professionals, to navigate career crossroads when they've gone through a redundancy or layoff, so that they can reinvent their careers and land the role that they'll really find rewarding and satisfying. So that's what I do. I'm the author of Navigating Career Crossroads, as Gillian said, and I'm also the host of Your Career podcast, and very, very honored to be a LinkedIn top voice. So thank you to LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Awesome. So Jane, want to talk with your book today because my show's all about talking about books. And so your book, do you actually have it handy? Can you just show it to us so we can see it? Awesome.
Of course.
Awesome. Awesome. Every author, always has to have those books handy. So that's absolutely awesome. So
and behind there too. So there you go.
You can't miss it. You can't miss it. So Jane, when was your book published? The
first edition was published back in 2015, and it's now in its third edition. So I republished with some updates because there's a whole chapter on LinkedIn as well. And, LinkedIn has so many changes, so I like to update periodically. And so just when COVID hit, I re-released it in its second edition, and it shot up to number 1 on Amazon immediately, even before I did any promotion at all. I think because of the timing, because there'd been so many furloughs and people being stood down because of COVID, and people were worried about what to do next. And so now it's been updated for a third time.
That's excellent. Excellent. And really, timing is everything. Timing is absolutely everything. So can you give us a summary, like what your book is about in the first place, just so we know we have our talking points?
Navigating career crossroads, basically. But so what I did was, and I'd wanted to write a book for a long, long time, but I was a little bit nervous to do it because I thought, who am I to write a book? You think the word author can be a bit scary sometimes, and I've got used to it now. So now I'm happy to say I'm the author of, but it took a long time to be able to say it. And I'm sure you know how that feels, because it seems like such a big thing. But I decided to write this book because I've been coaching. Now it's been 24 years I've been helping people in transition and coaching. And I have a very strong clarity of purpose, and I'm on a mission to make careers guidance accessible and also affordable to everybody who needs it. And I didn't know how to do that besides with my one-on-one coaching. But when you're one-on-one coaching or even doing workshops, you're just one person delivering information at one time. So that's very, very time consuming and labor intensive too. So I thought, how can I actually make careers guidance accessible? And of course, a book is the best way to do it, isn't it? Because then you can reach so many people all the time, and it's constant. So people can buy the book and they can read, they can get help, they can move on in their careers. And so I thought, that's something that will help me to fulfill my mission. And so I decided to write the book, and it took me almost a year because I sat down and Honestly, it was typing almost every single day and putting everything that was in my brain and all that I've learned into the book, plus lots of interviews with clients that I've helped through the career transition process too.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So when you were initially writing your book, did you have a specific was it for strangers? Like here's who I would like to help. Is it sort of just that anonymous stranger out there that needs to be navigating those career crossroads, or was it more for my existing clients needed this, so is filling that need, or was it both?
Yeah, that's such a good question, because if I said, oh, I just wanted to help all job seekers, well, that would be the truth as well. However, when I was writing the book, I had lots of my existing clients in mind as well, because I found that most people, when they're going through a transition, they have similar concerns and anxieties and questions, and like, how do I get clear on my career, or how do I get over the imposter syndrome if I want to get a promotion? How do I market myself? How do I write a resume? How do I get through to recruiters? How do I really let people know what I'm all about just through a verbal pitch, a brief verbal pitch? So most people have similar concerns because they don't know what to do specifically in order to have a really effective, create an effective job search campaign. And so I tried to answer all of those questions in my book as well. And I came up with a process which was fantastic, because I thought I need to have a process so it makes sense for people step by step. But initially, when I was thinking about the book, it was really quite different from how the book ended up. And that was because I had to have a lot of thought, and I did have an editor who talked me through the process as well, because when you do it on your own, you've got so many ideas, and pulling it together can be quite hard. So having someone who is a professional who had actually gone through that process before, my editor was able to say, do you really want to include all of that information, or do you want to streamline it? Because what my first idea was? Initially, it was, I want to write a book that's going to help job seekers, how to write a resume, how to prepare for job interviews. But when I did my research, there are so many books out there on how to write a resume, and so many books on job interviews. So I thought, I'm not going to be doing anything that's that groundbreakingly different. So then I thought, oh, maybe I'll do a book on my life and my career transitions. And I started writing about all the transitions that I'd gone through. But then I realized, I don't think everybody wants to know what I did. They want to know what they can do. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to change it up and turn it into the process that I take people through, and that will make it easy for them step by step. So I came up with a process called the 7 Steps Careers Program, using the acronym CAREERS, which spells careers. And it's 7 steps. So it's my 7-step program. And so at the back of the book, I actually tell you exactly what each step is. Would you like to hear what I broke it down into?
Sure.
Yeah, because basically this is the process that I would go through when I'm coaching my clients as well. So the C for careers, first one is confidently manage change, because when you go through any sort of transition or change, it can feel quite daunting and it can be quite stressful. So confidently managing change is very important. How to manage your stress levels when you're going through a redundancy or layoff. It can be quite an emotional roller coaster. So that's the first step. Then the second step is assess what makes you tick, because if you don't understand who you are, then how can you send that message out to others as to the value that you bring and the solutions that you provide? So assess what makes you tick first. And then the R is resumes and marketing materials. The E is express your personal brand, because you want to attract the opportunities through a strong brand. The next one is explore job search strategies, the ones that really work, because there are 6 job search strategies and most job seekers don't realize that there are quite a few. They just go online and apply. The next one is R, relate your value and impress at interviews. And finally, the S, the last in the acronym for careers is strategies for career success. And then I go through the onboarding process. And so that takes you through how to navigate your career crossroads.
Oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Like you said, it's a brilliant process and it's so clean. And kudos to you to take a word that's like so related to your field and be able to use every single letter. Cause I know that's not easy, except for maybe Jeff Young. He can do that with any word on the planet. He knows how to do
Is
that.
amazing.
He
But
is.
you know what's interesting is that with coaches or consultants, most of us, we do have a process, but we don't put a name to it. And so if you're in I mean, maybe, you know, as a publisher and a book author mentor as you are, Gillian, you know, maybe you would have an acronym which might be books or author, and then turn that into a process so it makes it very easy for people to understand what it is that you take people through with your own process.
I love that. I love that. Okay. Note to self. I'll be working on that. Jeff is going to help me. I love that.
Yes.
So,
Might have a word with Jeff too.
yes. So I'm thinking, you know, back to our original topic about how publishing my book transformed my coaching business. So let's elaborate on that, Jane. Just what did becoming an author and getting your book out there, which is so clever and so well thought through, and obviously gave you much, much clarity too. So what has that done for your coaching business?
Well, first of all, when you publish a book, it's like having a business card on steroids, because you can give it to someone, other people can buy it, but then when they're reading your book, it's really as if you have got inside their head. And so when they're reading your book, they're getting to know your personality, they're hearing your voice as well. And the way it's helped my business is that once people read the book, they can either run with it and make their career transition very successfully, or they might think, oh, it sounds as though Jane understands what I'm going through. I want to reach out to her for additional coaching, maybe for job interview practice, or just to really nut out who I really am in my life. So for my business, the book has actually turned into more clients because they then have been able to read my process. They've understood what I'm like to work with as well, because I've written the book in a very conversational tone, and I tell stories and there are amusing bits, and people have told me, oh, you know, and it's such a easy read as well, and quite funny in bits because of some of the stories that I've shared of my past clients, and also many stories from recruiters, which is really helpful. But in addition to letting readers know what your voice is, if I have a speaking engagement and I'm up there and I'm talking on the stage, I can have a little competition where, you know, people can answer certain questions and then they can win a book. And then so that's a very nice promotional tool as well. I can have online promotions for the book. Of course, I can sell the book, and so that's additional income, which is a wonderful thing. And the thing is that once you've published a book, it's ongoing income. I have a number of corporate clients who actually every year purchase a certain number of my books for their transitioning staff members as well, because in addition to delivering a workshop, they can give them a book, so that's a resource for them too. And so for me, it's created additional income streams. It's been wonderful for my credibility, so it's attracted more clients as well. And it's almost like the gift that keeps giving, because when you create an update, then it generates more excitement about your book yet again, and then you get additional sales on top of that. First of all, it's writing a book and having it published. It's like a bucket list event, and it has been for me, because now I can say I'm a published author, and it really is such an honor to know that people buy the book and they like it. So the reviews have been lovely too.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I love it. It's almost like the book has become the hub of your business, and that you can use it in so many ways.
Yes.
And do you find that it also gets easier to get speaking engagements because you are an author? Like, do you find that that's an impressive, you know, tick off list for event planners?
Yeah, well, I mean, it really is. I mean, I feel very blessed that I'm able to do this, because whenever I'm introduced, people always say, you know, Jane Jackson, career management coach or career transition coach, author of Navigating Career Crossroads, and instantly that just sounds like a little bit more credibility. And I have to admit though, Gillian, you never get used to it. You know, I still feel a little like, oh. But yes, it's my book, so step into that power and say, yeah, I'm a published author. It's lovely. But every once in a while, I still feel a little bit shy about it, because it's like, oh, it sounds so good. And then you get a little bit excited too. So it's a really lovely feeling to know that you've published a book. And you know what's so important is it means that when you're an author, you have left a legacy that will live on. And so people can read the Kindle book, they can read the paperback book, and if you have it in hardcover, they can read the hardcover book, and it's there. It's a physical thing. Now listen to this. This is very interesting, because someone once said to me, Jane, once you have a book, I'm going to drop it on my desk, it's got thud value. Okay, I mean, thud value is, you know, it's a tangible thing, isn't it? So yeah, it's very, very exciting.
I love that. I love that. And I'm just thinking of how, you know, we're doing this live, previously recorded, because of the time zone difference. You know, you're in the future, I'm in the past. You know, it's like I'm in America, you're in Australia. And we can only be so many places, and we have to deal with our geography, we have to deal with our time zones. But when you have a book, anybody, you can be helping people here in this country. You know, you could be helping people all over the world. You could be helping someone who maybe they can't afford to do anything, and they can't afford to work with you, you know. So it's so many good things can come from a book. So I'm all in. That's why I have this podcast, because I'm so excited about it. So let me just ask you about the marketing, because that's the thing. People, they make their book, and you know, you said you had the good fortune of like already being an Amazon bestseller before you like even launched. It was like, yay. And it just makes you so excited when that happens. You're just like, wow, how did that happen? And it's like, feels so wonderful. But then after the book launches, it's like, many of us find, you know, it's not, you know, one and done. You don't just set it and okay, now it'll just help itself. A lot of us say, okay, we have to somehow keep marketing it, at least let people know about it, because we don't want to be the best kept secret with our books. So have you any tips on how you've maybe marketed your book, either on LinkedIn, off LinkedIn, on your website? Like what do you have to share on marketing?
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, what any author doesn't want is to have boxes and boxes of their books in the garage, sitting there getting moldy. You don't want that. And I think I thought initially, I made lots of mistakes as well. I didn't really know the entire process initially, and I should have thought a little bit more. I've got it right now, which is good, and I'm glad you've got this wonderful podcast too, Gillian, where you can share everybody's ideas so people can take from it what they will. But initially, I thought I needed to have lots of books in my garage, and I would sell them. So I set up a page on my website where people could go and purchase. But I realized that ended up being really time consuming, because I was constantly putting books into bags, writing a personal note, wrapping it up in a ribbon. This is how I would normally wrap them up, with a nice little ribbon that matches the color of the book as well, and write a personal note, then send it off. And I was constantly going off to the post office and sending. It was very exciting initially, because it's like, oh, someone's buying my book. But afterwards I realized, it's a little bit tiring because I'm constantly doing this. And I realized it wasn't really sustainable unless I hired someone to do that for me. And I'm a career coach, and I run a private coaching practice. So it's me. If you get me, you get me. That's it. So with the book, the important thing is for marketing, you have to have a website. You need to get on the socials so that you can have your posts to constantly be marketing the book, so that people know that it's out there. There's no point your book being the best kept secret. People need to know that it's there and it can help them to achieve what it is that they want, because Navigating Career Crossroads is a self-help book. And I know a lot of consultants, if they're going to write a book, it's going to be a self-help book to guide them through the process. And so the website's important, getting onto social's important. You need to build your list so that you have an email newsletter, so that you can nurture the list and you can market to them, just to let them know, not say buy my stuff all the time, but to let them know this is what might help you and here's where you can get it, so that they know. Speaking engagements, it's important to talk about the book when you are speaking. So when you mention that you're an author, you know, I said I like to give books away as a prize during speaking engagement. That generates a little bit of buzz as well. And when you do give a book away to someone, what that does is they'll talk about your book as well. And then all their friends get to know about you and the book, and they may also purchase it. Some people, I don't advertise, but some people like to advertise, and you can obviously have Google ads or Facebook ads as well, and you can get onto radio and television. But I'll tell you, a really good way to promote your book is to get onto a podcast. And so when I first published, and thank you so much, Gillian, for interviewing me today on your podcast as well, and LinkedIn Live. But so when the book was first published, there was a lot of buzz. My publisher organized a book launch at Dymocks, which is a well-known bookstore in Australia as well. And is there Dymocks in America?
No, I've never heard of that one.
Well, in Australia, it's Dymocks, but the book's available at Dymocks and Booktopia and Amazon and Goodreads and all sorts of places. But so he organized a live book launch at Dymocks, the bookstore in the city in Sydney. And that was fantastic because we were able to invite people and generate lots of buzz, and it got more people into the bookstore as well. And so obviously there's a videographer and photographer, so I could use the images in order to promote too. I also organized my own book launch, and it was in a pub in the city in Sydney called the Rabbit Hole. And I deliberately chose that pub because you had a little door and you had to go down these stairs, and it had all sorts of little paths inside the pub, and it was a little bit like going down a rabbit hole. And I thought that's perfect for people going through career transition, because it feels like you go down a rabbit hole. You don't know whether you should turn this way or that way. Where will each path take me? And that's what happens when you're going through a career transition. So I thought, this place is the perfect metaphor. So having a book launch is a wonderful thing, because I also got a videographer there, and she interviewed people, everyone who was invited to the book launch. She invited them to be interviewed about the book, and most people had read it already, because I'd given away many copies before the book launch, and so they were able to talk with knowledge about the book as well. And so that gave me additional video footage to help to market the book as well. So having a book launch is great, and then you can invite some journalists along. They interview you about the book, they talk about the book, and getting your word out to journalists is important so that they can review your book. I've had a number of wonderful people interview me about the book, and talking through the process has generated more excitement about the content within the book as well. So those are some of the things that I did in order to market the book. It's quite a lot of work, isn't it, Gillian?
It is, but those are fabulous ideas. And, really, like, I do so much virtually. The idea of having it in person, and I just absolutely love that pub. Now I have to come to Sydney, just go to that pub because it sounds so cool. But what a great thing to really think about. Be very intentional about where you're going to launch your book. Like, yes, in a bookstore is fabulous, and that's a great idea, but to also have a party, a celebration party somewhere, and then be very intentional about where you're launching and what you're doing, and having a videographer and having testimonials. Oh my gosh, that's so brilliant, because you're thinking like a PR person. It's like you are your own PR person, that you have to say, this is going to give me so much footage that I can use down the road. And quite frankly, Jane, that stuff, it can be recycled. Like you could put that out there again of like on the 5th anniversary, whatever. You can say, I just wanted, this is what they said then. And what are they saying now? Like you just think it can all be over. And I'm the queen of repurposing. So I love repurposing everything. So
Mhm.
that's brilliant. So thank you so much for sharing all those tips. My
Yeah,
brain's going.
it really was interesting. And you know what's so good is I have a YouTube channel at Jane Career Coach. That's the YouTube channel. And I've got the footage of the book launch on that channel as well. So people can just click and play. And that means I can just share that link again in posts. Actually, you've just given me an idea, Gillian. Maybe I'll do a new post about the book launch and talk about this interview at the same time.
There we
That
go.
would be a good idea, wouldn't it?
There we go. We tie everything in together.
Yeah, I think it's such a good idea because once you've got that book, I mean, honestly, I encourage everybody to, get help from Gillian, because Gillian knows how to and you've published numerous books as well. I mean, you're the publishing queen. So I would say make sure you get help from Gillian in order to get your book out there as well. And then all of those ideas, perhaps that I've shared, and Gillian's got so many more ideas as well. Get Gillian to help you with your book as well.
Thank you. Thank you. So, okay, another thing I know about you is that you were a finalist with the Australian Career Book Award. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So is there a story there? How did that all happen?
I just submitted it basically. There's a little logo there, which is very exciting. And well, there are always awards. So if you're an author, I would suggest you go and have a look. Just look in your local area or in your country and see what sort of awards there are for different categories. And so I was approached by the company to say, oh, you've published a book in this particular year. We're going through all of these different topics. Your book is in this category. Would you like to submit it for the awards? And so I thought, well, why not? And initially I thought, oh, it's not going to do very well. There are so many books out there. And if you have a look, there are career books galore, all about different aspects of career transition and helping you with resumes and LinkedIn and job interviews and onboarding and all that sort of thing. So when I was asked to submit the book, I felt a little bit of imposter syndrome, thinking, oh, I don't think it's going to do very well. But then my husband said, what have you got to lose? Just submit it. You may get somewhere, you might not. It's fine. And I said, well, what if it gets nowhere and I'll be so depressed? He said, oh, just get over yourself, Jane. Just get over yourself. And so I said, okay. So I submitted it. And I think it was 3 months later, I'd heard that I was one of the finalists. And so that was wonderful. And the book that won that year was one in the UK. And even though it was the Australian Career Book Awards, the author was actually living in the UK. And he won that particular year. But I was one of the 5 finalists, so I was very happy with that. And the good thing is that once you are a finalist for a particular award, you can actually use that as part of your marketing as well. And the same thing for Amazon, because if your book reaches #1, and the thing with Amazon is they don't tell you when you're #1. You have to keep going and checking to see if you've got that little #1 banner. And I remember the first time when my book was published, and I thought, oh, I wonder if it's going to reach #1. And I kept checking, and it wasn't there and it wasn't there, but I could see what number it was. And then finally, when ding, it hit the #1, I quickly took a screenshot just so that I could have it. But when it came out in the second edition during COVID, and I hadn't started marketing it yet, I guess people must have been looking for navigating career crossroads or how to find a job. And you've got to have all of the right keywords as well. When I went to look, it was already there. So that was quite exciting.
It's very exciting. It's very exciting. And it can happen even, when you're on pre-order, because that's what just happened to me recently. It's like my book is on pre-order.
And I have pre-ordered your book, Gillian, and I can't wait to read it. Oh, hang on. Was it the 1st of November that it went out? I should be
Yes.
getting it
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah. It
Yes,
should,
I
it
can't
should be.
wait.
Yeah. And so it's just so exciting when that
Mm.
happens, where it just like, boom. And you're just like, I didn't even know this was happening, but and I love your story about the book award, because I think that even if you don't make it, you were always learning something. Like, I once applied for a TED Talk and I didn't get picked, but I learned so much with going through that process of what it takes and how I had to be clear on what my talk was about. And I didn't make it, but I still, doesn't mean I'm never going to do a TED Talk. It just means I'm not doing that TED Talk. But now
Mhm.
I've learned better, so that when I do apply next time, I'm applying with the knowledge of what I applied the first time. So even if we don't win, it doesn't matter. It's the learning that we get along the journey. And hey, why not us? We have every chance of winning as much as the next person. So it's
Yeah,
always worth
that's
a
right.
shot.
Yeah, I always like to think, when my clients say, "Oh, what if it's a no?" I always say, don't think of something as no and final. Think of the no as a not yet.
Mm.
It's just now is not the right time. Maybe next year will be the right time. So it's never a no. It's just a not just yet.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Mm.
That's beautiful.
Mm.
So believe it or not, we have reached our end of our 30 minutes. It always goes zipping past. So before we say goodbye to everybody today, Jane, I wonder if there's any final words of wisdom you'd like to share with us.
Mhm. Oh gosh, wisdom. I think if you're thinking about becoming an author, first of all, be very clear as to what solutions can you provide to your specific audience. So get really clear on who your audience are and make sure that you understand their problems. If you can be a solution to their problems, then the book that you write will be of value. I think that's the most important thing. Really know what it is that you bring to the table with regard to solutions for your audience.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Jane. Thank you, everybody who's watching live, previously recorded, and everybody who's listening on the podcast later as well. And I'm sure you got lots of insights today. And thank you, Jane, for just sharing so much great knowledge with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Gillian. It's always a pleasure talking to you, even though it's very early in the morning in Sydney.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And
Okay.
see
Bye.
you on LinkedIn.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.